Hey guys, welcome to month number 3 of Sonder's development. To start off this month, I revisited the GUI for items. As I begin to implement many of these items into gameplay later on this month, now would be a good time to explain exactly how they work. There are 3 types of items that each have 2 primary stats. Weapons are responsible for both the raw damage and attack speed of the user's attacks, armor is responsible for both damage reduction and evasion, and artifacts are responsible for spell cost reduction and lowering spell cooldowns. For each type of item, there are going to be a number of items with different distributions of these base stats. Let's take the weapon class for instance. Axes serve as the middle point for weapons, having equal distributions into both damage and speed. Hammers are much stronger than axes, but only a fraction of the speed. On the other hand of the spectrum, daggers are very quick but deal low damage on each individual attack. Despite their differences, these items all sort of balance together in their own way. What you're seeing right now are the steps I took in adding multiplayer to my game by syncing data across the server for everything that's been implemented so far. This is pretty self-explanatory, and everything that's happening is for the most part inside the code, so I won't spend too much time talking about this other than mentioning that the network code was one of the most stressful things I have ever coded in my life. Instead, I'll continue to talk about something more fun: items. Beyond their basic stat distributions, items have these color-coded qualities that can either reduce or add to the overall effectiveness of the item. Going back to the weapon example, a red quality weapon has a -3 net points attached to it. These 3 points could be divided into 2 decreases for damage and 1 decrease for speed, or maybe 1 decrease for damage and 2 decreases for speed. On the other end of the spectrum, a rare purple quality item would have +3 net points attached to it. Item qualities serve 2 purposes. The first is that they ensure there will always be, for instance, a slow weapon, a balanced weapon, and a fast weapon at every stage of the game. Their small deviations also allow there to be these micro decisions that the player makes when choosing items based on how the stats are uniquely distributed. The final thing I touched on this month is starting the combat system, which will be developed more next month. I changed the way basic attacks are handled from the player swinging their weapon to the player shooting this sort of magic bullet looking thing. The major reason for this change was how I noticed the older combat system really wasn't working in the platformer type world I created last month. By separating attacks from interfering with the movement system, I hoped to bridge the disconnect between the combat and the exploration pieces of the game. Even in its rough state, this new system already feels much more organically a part of the game. Finally, I added invincibility frames to rolls, but also limited the number that could be performed in a fight to prevent excessive dodging and also promote the agility stat for armor. That's all the time I have for this month. I hope to see you guys again next month, or even in game now that multiplayer is up and running.